Chapter 31 Planning and Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At night, under the hostage of 3 pirate ships, the Golden Fleece slowly sailed towards the Stone Steps Islands. At this time, Gavin finally learned the meaning of the flag signal from the captain. The other party asked the Golden Fleece to follow them to the Stone Steps Islands, otherwise they would use crossbows to sink the ship. Faced with such a tough and rogue method, Gavin was also quite powerless. He clenched his fists, feeling unwilling, but helpless. The other party did not engage in a boarding battle. Even if Gavin was strong, he could not reach them. The moonlight sprinkled on the sea, with patches of silver-white light, but it could not illuminate the dark situation. Gavin looked at the pirate ship looming in the distance, and his mind was thinking quickly about how to deal with it. In this way, at dusk one day later, Gavin vaguely saw an island in the distance. Through Hassan's introduction, he learned that they had come to the edge of the Stone Steps Islands. The afterglow of the setting sun sprinkled on the sea, outlining a layer of golden outline for the mysterious island. Gavin held the side of the boat, staring at the front, his heart full of vigilance against the unknown. Captain Hassan said solemnly, "If my guess is correct, we are now in the Shipwreck Bay, which is full of reefs and has only one channel to enter. After passing the reefs, there is a huge natural deep-water port inside. I heard that this is the shipbuilding base of the Black Shark Earl. It seems that they don't just want to rob. They hijacked the ship here. I'm afraid that the ship and the people are the other party's targets," Gavin said calmly. After hearing this, Captain Hassan replied worriedly, "I'm afraid that's the case. The Black Shark Earl has great ambitions. I'm afraid we will be broken up and incorporated into his fleet. In the future, we can only be pirates." Gavin was helpless for the time being and could only return to his guest room first. The situation described by Captain Hassan was exactly the same as his speculation. As long as everyone on this ship was willing to cooperate with the pirates, they would not lose their lives. Only Frank Brown, the ship owner who lost everything, would not be easily let go by the pirates in order to avoid retaliation in the future. Thinking of the full picture of the island he had just observed, Gavin gradually came up with a plan in his mind. He would try to jump off the ship and escape after approaching the island. Although he did not know the specific number of pirates on the island, Gavin would never get off the ship when it docked. Once he arrived at the other party's territory, he would be like fish on the chopping board, at the mercy of others. All the results he had worked hard to obtain would be plundered. Even if he was strong, he would find it difficult to withstand the swarming siege of the pirates. Thinking of this, Gavin immediately made up his mind and finalized the plan to go to the island first and launch a guerrilla war. With his strength, he could easily deal with 20 or 30 people without armor, not to mention that he had the Blood Dragon Guard and bows and arrows. Even if the pirates sent a 100-man team, they would not be able to keep him. Besides, it was unlikely that the pirates would send so many people to search for him. He also brought with him a sufficient number of blood witch puppet ritual materials. As long as he found an opportunity, he could create an army that was fearless and fearless. At that time, the initiative would be in his own hands. Whether it was to rob the ship and escape or to become the host, he could deal with it calmly. Since he had a plan, Gavin immediately took action and prepared food and some easy-to-carry supplies in advance. He might have to sleep in the wild for a while. Just as Gavin had just finished his preparations, the ship suddenly fell into chaos, with noisy sounds and exclamations one after another. After Gavin ran to the deck, he found that the owner of the ship, Frank Brown, had fallen in a pool of blood. His heart was pierced by a sword, and the first mate standing next to him was holding a bloody long sword in his hand, which undoubtedly confirmed the identity of the murderer. At this time, Captain Hassan also rushed here after hearing the sound. Seeing such a scene, he was furious at the first mate and cursed. Gavin watched all this coldly from the side. Through the fierce quarrel, he learned that Frank planned to burn the ship after entering the Shipwreck Bay, so as to prevent the pirates from taking his property and to set fire to other pirate ships in the port with the fire ship. However, at this moment, no one was willing to obey his orders. Seeing that no one supported him, he tried to do it himself. The result was self-evident. Frank, who had lost his mind, finally rebelled. After figuring out the ins and outs of the matter, Gavin drew the long sword at his waist. although Gavin also understood that Frank Brown died because of his own stupidity and impulsiveness, he was at least able to avenge him thanks to his care during this period. Seeing Gavin draw his sword, the quarreling people were instantly silent, and the first mate looked at Gavin with contempt and said, "Hey, Sir Gavin, are you going to avenge him?" Gavin walked slowly towards the other party, saying as he walked, "Yes, no matter what, you rebelled and killed your sponsor, even if what he did was a little stupid, but this is not a reason for you to kill him." The first mate curled his lips, no longer looking at Gavin, but turned to look at the sailors under his command and ordered, "Strip this knight and throw him into the sea." Just as the sailors drew their weapons and prepared to take action, the blood dragon guard behind Gavin rushed out like a beast out of the cage. As fast as lightning, a powerful collision hit the sailor in front. The sailor was like being hit by a heavy hammer, and the whole person flew out uncontrollably, knocking down several people along the way, with a series of screams and the dull sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. The sailors' camp instantly fell into chaos. Gavin also came to the first mate with a sword in hand. He was agile, like a willow branch swaying in the wind, and he easily dodged the opponent's powerful blow. Then, his eyes flashed, and the sword in his hand slashed at the opponent's sword-holding hand with lightning speed. Crack! The first mate's hand was broken at the wrist, blood gushed out, and the broken hand rolled in the air and fell. The first mate screamed heartbreakingly, and his face turned pale as paper in an instant. Gavin took advantage of the situation and kicked the first mate's knee. The powerful force made the first mate's legs soften and he fell to the ground involuntarily. At the same time, the blood dragon guard launched a violent pursuit against more than a dozen sailors. Every time he swung his sword, there was a whistling sound of wind. No one could resist the terrifying force. Some sailors were knocked away by his punch, and their bodies fell far away like a kite with a broken line. Some were cut off with their weapons, and their broken limbs and arms and broken weapons were scattered all over the ground. Under his powerful attack, no one could get close to Gavin. Gavin walked slowly and calmly to the side of the first mate. He narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a hint of cold murderous intent. Then, a flash of cold light passed by, and the first mate's head was separated from his body, rolling to the ground, and blood spurted out like a fountain, staining a large area of the deck red. Chapter 32: Escape and Landing on the Island. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The people around were stunned by this bloody and cruel scene, and even forgot to breathe. After a swift and extremely bloody killing, no one on the ship dared to approach Gavin, especially the blood dragon guard beside him. When the silent red-eyed attendant first boarded the ship, many sailors teased him behind his back, speculating whether he was a dumb fool. However, at this moment, everyone avoided him and stayed away from this terrifying red-eyed demon, ignoring Captain Hassan, who was already frightened. Gavin quickly climbed to the steering wheel on the second deck. Seeing Gavin coming, the helmsman was terrified and turned around to run away, but Gavin held his shoulder and said, "It's none of your business, drive your ship well." At this time, the sky was just a little dim, and Gavin observed the current situation calmly. At this time, the ship had already entered the narrow channel, which was close to the cliff next to the island. The distance between the two was less than 100 meters, and it was still getting closer. The four ships were arranged vertically on this narrow channel. At this time, the only crossbow that could pose a threat among the three pirate ships was located behind the Golden Fleece. Gavin's eyes were sharp, and he quickly estimated the distance and keenly found that the entire long ship had barely stepped into the range of the flaming arrow. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and he made a quick decision and took out the bow without hesitation, concentrating on finding the right opportunity. He knew that he had to destroy the only crossbow that could threaten him first, and then jump off the ship decisively at the critical moment closest to the cliff, so that he could escape safely. The coast was getting closer and closer, and suddenly, a gentle slope appeared on the coast in front, and many reefs appeared on the sea surface between the channel and the coast. The reef closest to the channel was only more than 10 meters away. Gavin's brain was running at a high speed, and he was nervously thinking about how to deal with it. Soon, a flash of inspiration flashed in his eyes, and he obviously thought of a solution. The blood dragon guard carrying the supplies moved swiftly and quickly climbed up the lookout pole. Gavin drew his bow steadily and aimed at the crossbow behind him. An arrow made of blazing flames appeared on the bow out of thin air, and was immediately shot out by him, cutting through the sky. Boom! A huge explosion sounded, and the entire crossbow was instantly blown to pieces. Even the two pirates guarding next to it were not spared, and were severely shaken into the sea by the powerful impact of the explosion. Gavin turned around without hesitation, and another flaming arrow whizzed out, breaking the thick lookout pole in half. The lookout pole, with the blood dragon guard on top, fell down in the direction of the reef. Just as it was about to approach the sea surface, the blood dragon guard suddenly jumped onto the reef accurately. Gavin did not hesitate, and quickly followed, rushing towards the reef with the help of the long pole, and successfully jumped onto the reef. Then, they used the reef exposed on the sea surface as a springboard and rushed towards the island. The whole process was as fast as lightning, and everyone on the Golden Fleece was stunned and could not recover for a while. Although the pirate ship behind found Gavin who was escaping, they were helpless and had no way to deal with it. On the contrary, because of the earth-shaking explosion just now, they didn't even dare to approach the bow. In this way, Gavin successfully arrived on the island without any danger. Gavin rushed up the gentle slope and looked down from a high place, waiting expectantly for the pirates to come and chase in a small boat. However, until the four boats slowly sailed away and turned and disappeared behind a cliff, he could only turn around helplessly and walk slowly towards the depths of the island with his expectations dashed. At night, in a leeward valley, Gavin silently made a bonfire. A sea fish was roasted on the fire, and crackling sounds came from the fire from time to time, and Gavin's thoughts continued. The first step of the plan went very successfully, but the next step is the key. He thought that it would be best to find a way to catch a few tongues, so that the problems of puppets and information can be solved, and he would not be in the dark like he is now. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound in the bushes ahead, and the blood dragon guard slowly walked over and looked at Gavin. Gavin instantly understood that the pirate's lair was about an hour away from here. The special function of telepathy with the blood dragon guard was also discovered by Gavin accidentally. It was not marked on the panel, but its practicality was beyond imagination. Looking back, the blood dragon guard was hidden after it was first created, and then it was only used as a coolie, until the battle on the ship. Gavin wanted to order him to attack, but before the words came out, with just a fleeting thought, the blood dragon guard rushed out without hesitation. After arriving on the island, Gavin conducted a simple test and found that he did not need to express himself verbally. As long as the blood dragon guard was within 30 steps of him, he could accurately receive the orders he silently gave in his heart. Even if the distance was a little farther, the same effect could be achieved by looking at each other. Now that the location has been determined, things will be much easier. Gavin, who was full and satisfied, burped contentedly and planned to have a good sleep first. Anyway, those pirates could not run away. Gavin was forced to choose to escape when he was at sea before. Now the situation has been reversed. He is in the dark, and the offensive and defensive situation has changed. The next day, Gavin woke up slowly. In the early morning on the island, the sun was soft and warm, and the breeze blew gently, carrying the salty and humid breath of the ocean, stirring the surrounding grass and making a slight rustling sound. Take a deep breath. The air is filled with the fresh fragrance of grass and trees, making people feel relaxed and happy. Gavin stood up and stretched his body, and the joints of his body made a crackling sound. It's time to work at dawn, he said to himself, with a cold murderous look in his eyes. At this time, in a wooden house in Shipwreck Bay. Use a bow to shoot an arrow made of fire. I believe you, keep whipping. The voice was extremely calm, but there was endless ferocity in the voice. No, sir, I didn't lie, I saw it with my own eyes. Ah, no. I didn't, ah. Before he finished speaking, the ruthless whip whipped like a venomous snake, with a sharp sound of wind, falling on him again and again. If Gavin was here, he would definitely recognize the wailing person, who was the helmsman last night. Black Shark Earl ignored the wailing of the helmsman and slowly walked out of the wooden house. A pirate with a scar on his face hurriedly followed him. Boss, is what he said a lie? It should be true, he doesn't look like a liar. Black Shark Earl did not look back, but looked at the port calmly. We will confirm whether it is true or not in a moment. Chapter 33 Interrogation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a while, a pirate trotted over and handed 2 broken bows to the Black Shark Earl. there were obvious traces of being burned by the flames at the broken ends of the bow. The Black Shark Earl who was touching the broken bow looked at the scarred face behind him and said lightly, "It seems that a great guy has come to the island. Send go find him alive, be careful, he still has 3 bows." Gavin stood on the cliff, overlooking the shipwreck bay below. This is not a natural deep-water port as Captain Hassan said before. Perhaps his information is out of date. A wide dock has been built with stones below, with more than 30 ships occupying half of the space, and there is even a large dock. From Gavin's perspective, he could also catch a glimpse of some of the ships being built in the dock. A wooden camp was closely connected to the dock. The camp did not have walls, but wooden towers were arranged around it for warning and observation. Suddenly, Gavin saw a group of dozens of pirates carrying weapons and coming out of the town menacingly. They spread out as they walked, and the entire pirate team was divided into 3, with 2 teams advancing towards the island, and one of the teams was traveling along the coast, where Gavin was, looking at the menacing pirates. Gavin planned to stay away from the opponent's base camp and then annihilate this group of pirates. He retreated decisively away from the pirates, stopping from time to time, waiting patiently for the pirates who came to search, ensuring that every move of the other party was under his control. Time passed slowly like this, until noon. The pirates were obviously exhausted. They found a forest that could shelter from the wind and prepared to rest here. Seeing this situation, Gavin immediately ordered the Blood Dragon Guard to sneak around behind to prevent the other party from escaping. He himself took his bow and arrows, bent his waist, and cautiously moved towards where the pirates were. Perhaps due to excessive exhaustion, and because this island was their home base, half of the pirates lay down on the ground unsuspectingly. The rest also sat down to rest, and the entire team did not set up any warning. Gavin quietly cocked his bow and arrow, his eyes locked on a pirate far away from the crowd. There was just a whoosh sound, and the sharp arrow shot out like lightning, hitting the opponent's neck accurately. The pirate fell to the ground before he even had time to scream. Before the pirates noticed it, Gavin shot another arrow through the throat of another pirate. The blood splashed out and splashed on the face of the pirate behind him, frightening him so much that he stood up screaming. All the pirates' eyes instantly focused on him. At this moment, another arrow shot out and hit his eye. The entire pirate team instantly fell into extreme panic. The pirates who were originally lying on the ground felt like they were waking up from a dream. They stood up in a hurry and tried to fight back with their weapons, but they did not see that the enemy looked dazed. Some pirates were instantly shot down by Gavin's sharp arrows before they could even hold on to their weapons, and died. The pirates who survived finally came to their senses and began to flee in panic, looking for bunkers in a hurry. Anyone who tried to escape was shot down one by Gavin's sharp arrows. For a time, miserable screams could be heard one after another, and the figures trying to escape fell one after another. However, there were still 2 pirates who took advantage of the chaos and quietly got into the bushes behind them, trying to hide themselves from Gavin's shooting. Gavin paid no attention to this. At this moment, there were only 3 pirates hiding behind the trees. They were tightly suppressed by Gavin's bows and arrows. They were so frightened that they did not dare to make any move. Seeing this situation, Gavin abandoned his bow and drew his sword without hesitation, and like a fierce and fast wind, he rushed towards the pirates behind the tree. He planned to capture a few alive to obtain important information. A team of more than 10 pirates had lost most of its members in this extremely short period of time. This situation made the 3 pirates completely shrouded in fear. It was not until Gavin rushed in front of them that they hurriedly fought back. After a flash of sword light, 2 pirates were knocked unconscious to the ground, and the remaining pirates simply knelt down and surrendered. At this moment, the Blood Dragon Guards led 2 corpses through the bushes and appeared in front of Gavin. They were holding the 2 pirates who had escaped before. Gavin's eyes were burning, staring at the pirate who was kneeling and surrendering, and first warned, "From now on, I will ask you questions. Don't think about telling lies. I will knock you out later and then ask your companions." The pirate was already trembling with fear, and he stammered in reply, "Sir, please forgive me. I will not dare to lie to you, and I will not lie." Gavin looked serious and asked, "Tell me, how many people are there in your camp?" That the pirate trembled and said, "Sir, there are probably more than 2,000 people in the camp now." Gavin frowned and continued to ask, "Are they all pirates?" that the captured pirate hurriedly replied, "There are hundreds of slaves bought by Black Shark Earl specifically for shipbuilding, and there are hundreds of natives on the island, and the rest are pirates." Gavin asked again, "Is Earl the Black Shark in the camp?" The pirate nodded hurriedly, "Yes, sir, he is the one who sent us out to find you." Then, after Gavin asked a few more questions, he knocked the pirate unconscious. Then, he woke up the other two pirates in turn and asked the same questions repeatedly. After interrogating the three pirates separately, Gavin roughly understood the current situation on the island. This is an unnamed island, and only the bay full of reefs is called Shipwreck Bay. Except for this place, the rest of the island is cliffs and it is difficult to land on the island. So Black Shark Earl uses this place as a base camp to build and repair damaged ships. Black Shark Earl has more than 70 ships under his command, distributed on several nearby islands. There are only more than 10 pirate ships that can move in the entire Shipwreck Bay camp, and the rest are merchant ships and some damaged ships that have been recaptured during this period. Black Shark Earl plans to transform those ships to make up for the consumption caused by the conflict with the Dornish some time ago. There are about 1,000 pirates in the camp, and more than 300 slaves specially purchased from the Slave Bay by Black Shark Earl for shipbuilding. In addition, there are some native residents of the island serving the pirates. After roughly understanding the situation on the island, Gavin plans to make blood dragon guards to enhance the strength. Considering that this pirate team was found missing, it may take a day for the other party to send people to search for it. He can make 2 in this time. Chapter 34 Counterattack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After making the decision, Gavin planned to make it on the spot. He took a quick look and selected 2 tall corpses. At this time, the blood dragon guards tied the 3 pirates together. Gavin quickly took out the ritual materials prepared in advance and prepared the blood witch puppet ceremony. In this way, in the terrified eyes of the 3 pirate captives, a terrifying scene occurred. A corpse that had been dead for a long time stood up. It lasted until the evening, and Gavin finally made 2 blood dragon guards. At this time, the sky gradually darkened, and the atmosphere around became more and more gloomy. The 2 newly obtained blood dragon guards stood there quietly, as if waiting for Gavin's order. The 3 tied pirates had been tortured by fear and almost collapsed, and their eyes were full of despair. Gavin, who made it twice in a row, was also overwhelmed. It was not that he was mentally and physically exhausted, but that each time he made one, he needed to consume a lot of his own blood. I am afraid that it would take at least 2 days for his body to fully recover. Considering this situation, the corpse on the ground obviously could not wait for him to make it again. Following Gavin's order, 3 blood dragon guards immediately knocked out the captured pirates, each carrying a prisoner, and quickly left, following Gavin and disappearing into the night. In the slightly dim hall, Black Shark Earl frowned and listened attentively to his subordinates' reports. "Boss, that team has not returned yet, and there is no news." Before they set off, they were responsible for searching the coast. A subordinate lowered his head, his voice trembling. With a little panic, Black Shark Earl had a calm face, but a hint of majesty. He said lightly, "It seems that the enemy has not penetrated deep into the island. If you send more people to search, send more people this time to strengthen the search on the coast." At this time, another subordinate hurried over and shouted breathlessly, "Boss, the people sent out have found the trace of that team, but there are only 8 bodies, most of them were killed by arrows." Black Shark Earl's face became more gloomy in an instant, and he ordered in a fierce tone, "Bring archers, and bring all the armor you can find. Don't consider catching them alive. Kill them directly if you find them. Bring the other party's head back to me." That the hall was suddenly filled with a tense and depressing atmosphere. The subordinates were silent and dared not speak at all. At dusk the next day, Gavin and his party slowly advanced into the depths of the dense forest with the captives. Gavin felt a little weak at this time. He tried to use the quick healing potion halfway, but it was obviously not very effective. The potion could only quickly recover from external injuries and could not replenish the lost blood. Going deep into the dense forest on the island was a helpless move. Obviously, yesterday's action had already increased the pirates' attention. Through the blood dragon guard reconnaissance, Gavin learned that the other party had dispatched more than 100 pirates this time, most of whom were wearing various kinds of protective gear and shields, and even found several sets of full-body plate armor among them. Obviously, the other party knew his archery level and responded quickly. Gavin knew that with his current strength, although he could deal with these pirates, it was not a wise move to force a confrontation. It is better to avoid their sharp edge, wait for a little recovery, and make 3 blood dragon guards before counterattacking. Moreover, he had fewer people, more flexible actions, and held captives who were familiar with the island in his hands, which was undoubtedly a big advantage for him. During this period of time, Gavin led the team to hide in the dense forest, cleverly avoiding the pirates' searches again and again. Under his intimidation and inducement, the captives also cooperated honestly and guided them to a more secluded place. When night fell, Gavin and his party finally found a safe cave to rest temporarily. 2 days later, the pirates who could not find Gavin's whereabouts became more and more crazy. At this time, the pirates had completed a round of search of the entire coastline and began to send more people to the depths of the island to conduct a carpet search. For this reason, they doubled the manpower. At this time, Gavin, who was pale and weak, sat against the stone wall, looking at the 6 blood dragon guards in front of him, and couldn't help but smile, thinking in his heart, it's time to start fighting back. Gavin led the blood dragon guards, like a ghost, shuttled through the dense forest, cleverly avoided several large pirate forces, and slowly approached a small team with a small number of people. They held their breath and concentrated, their figures merged with the darkness, like ghosts hidden in the dark night, their cold eyes locked on the target, and patiently waited for the best time to attack. Deep in the dense forest, a pirate team of 20 people was searching with difficulty. This damn forest, there are so many mosquitoes that they can eat people. A bearded pirate complained while waving his arms to drive away mosquitoes. Who said it wasn't? I really don't know what the superiors were thinking, letting us come to this damn place. A tall and thin pirate next to him echoed, his face full of irritation. Humph, when we catch that guy, I must let him taste my power. Another sturdy pirate said viciously, and chopped the tree trunk with his knife. That's right, I want him to be unable to live or die. Another pirate followed and cursed. They continued to move forward cursing, not realizing that danger was quietly approaching. Suddenly, an arrow shot out and shot the pirate at the front of the team in the throat. The pirate team fell into panic in an instant. They immediately raised the shields they had prepared in advance, and the 2 archers quickly drew their bows, trying to find Gavin's location. However, before they could confirm, they were shot to death by Gavin with 2 arrows. At the same time, 2 blood dragon guards suddenly appeared at the back of the team, rushed out directly, and killed them by surprise. Then, 2 more blood dragon guards came out from both sides, making the pirate team even more panicked. Ah! Enemy attack! The pirates shouted in fear and were in chaos. The blood dragon guards were agile and sharp, and the weapons in their hands flashed cold light in the dimness. In the chaotic battle, a pirate was about to raise his knife to resist, but the blood dragon guard chopped the long knife in his hand fiercely, and the pirate's knife was instantly knocked off. Then the blood dragon guard's knife continued to move, and he actually split the pirate in half, and blood splattered everywhere. Another blood dragon guard was attacked by a pirate and stabbed in the back. However, the short knife was like stabbing someone else, and it did not cause any effect on the blood dragon guard. The blood dragon guard turned back suddenly without any consciousness, and a big hand pinched the pirate's neck like an iron clamp. Under the pirate's horrified gaze, the blood dragon guard twisted the pirate's neck hard, breaking it and causing his head to droop limply. The pirates were so shocked by this scene that their eyes widened and their hearts were filled with fear. Chapter 35 Night Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A blood dragon guard was besieged by several pirates, but he was not afraid. He rushed left and right, punched and kicked. The pirates' weapons hit him, but they could not stop him. A pirate took advantage of the pirate's unpreparedness and attacked from behind. His long sword stabbed into the back of the blood dragon guard, but the blood dragon guard seemed not to notice it. He dodged to the side and punched the pirate in the chest with his backhand. The pirate's sternum was broken and he died of blood. Faced with such a fearless monster that was not afraid of death and harm, the pirates were timid and fear spread rapidly among them. Soon, the pirate team was wiped out. The Blood Dragon Guard carried 2 knocked-out pirates and quickly came to Gavin. Gavin did not speak, but waved his hand, indicating that he should flee immediately, and quickly disappeared into the dense forest. At this time, other pirates who came to search heard the sound of the battle and were rushing here. However, Gavin and his party had passed through the encirclement and rushed towards the coast. 10 days later, Gavin came to the cliff overlooking the entire Shipwreck Bay again. Looking down at the pirate camp below. Behind him stood 15 Blood Dragon Guards, 8 of whom were wearing full plate armor. During this period, Gavin successfully annihilated more than 100 pirates with guerrilla tactics and seized a lot of equipment. In the continuous battle with the pirates, Gavin's strength became stronger and stronger. With the increase in the number of Blood Dragon Guards, Gavin didn't even need to take action in several battles. Until 2 days ago, the pirates no longer sent people to search, but all retreated back to their camp. Thanks to the complete annihilation of each battle, the pirates still don't know the size of the Blood Dragon Guards. Gavin didn't know whether the pirates didn't want to deal with his trouble for the time being, leaving him to fend for himself on the island, or were brewing a bigger action, but it didn't matter now. Gavin carefully observed the opponent's camp, thinking about the night attack, and then opened the panel to read it. Host, Gavin Bellerys, age, 15. Bloodline, Bloodfire Dragonborn. Development 33%. The bloodline of the Dragon King of Valyria, controlling dragons and controlling flames, initially. Awakened, command, point 15/33, your subordinates can be upgraded through the panel. Point 14 Primary Blood Dragon Guards, Blood Witch Puppet made with Dragonborn blood can be advanced twice. Point 1 Intermediate Blood Dragon Guard, Blood Witch Puppet that has been advanced once can be advanced once. Skills, Flame Control, Master, Swordsmanship, Master, Flame Blade, Master, Bow and Arrow, Master, Lance. Proficiency, Energy Points, 0, automatically absorb the magic power floating around, or actively absorb magic power. The night shrouded the Shipwreck Bay like a heavy curtain, and the thick darkness seemed to swallow everything. Gavin led 15 Blood Dragon Guards, like ghosts in the dark night, quietly approaching the side of the pirate town. These 15 Blood Dragon Guards were all flesh and blood puppets made of corpses without emotions or perception. They did not know what death was, nor did they know the taste of pain. They just silently and firmly carried out Gavin's orders. They were the most fearless and brave force in Gavin's hands. The pirate town was particularly quiet in the night. There were no walls or curtain walls for protection. The only few wooden towers stood alone. The pirates on guard were dozing off on the towers, not realizing the approach of danger. Gavin led the way, blending perfectly with the night. Every step was light and agile, as if there was wind under his feet. He held a strong bow, and the arrow flashed coldly in the faint moonlight. He aimed at the pirate on the wooden tower, and his eyes revealed a fierce killing intent. The bowstring sounded lightly, and the sharp arrow flew out like lightning that cut through the night sky, with a sharp sound of wind, and accurately sank into the throat of a pirate. The pirate fell straight from the wooden tower before he could even scream. Gavin kept moving and shot arrows again. Another pirate was killed in his sleep. After solving the threat on the wooden tower, Gavin and his party sneaked into the town smoothly like ghosts. With the information obtained from the interrogation of the captives before, Gavin had a clear goal and went straight to the location of the Black Shark Earl. They shuttled flexibly in the shadows, taking every step carefully to avoid possible patrols, and finally came to the center of the town, where a huge wooden hall appeared in front of them. This hall is built of thick and old logs, and the surface is covered with traces of time and exudes the smell of old wood. The hall is not small and is divided into 2 parts, front and back. According to the interrogation, the front is used for meetings, and the back is the residence of the Black Shark Earl. Gavin carefully observed the surroundings and made sure that there was no abnormality. He gave instructions to the Blood Dragon Guards. 6 Blood Dragon Guards stayed at the door to guard against enemy reinforcements. Gavin took a deep breath, a look of determination flashed in his eyes, and he and the rest of the Blood Dragon Guards suddenly pushed open the door and rushed in like a gust of wind. The hall was filled with a faint smell of alcohol and sweat, which was disgusting. Gavin's eyes quickly swept over and saw that several guards had just woken up from their sleep, with sleepy eyes. Before they could pick up the weapons beside them, Gavin raised his sword and fell, with a flash of cold light, instantly killing one person, and blood splattered, forming a shocking pool of blood on the ground. The blood dragon guards were also merciless, they pounced on the enemy like beasts. Some blood dragon guards held giant swords with both hands and slashed hard. The sword wind roared, cutting off a guard in half, and his internal organs were scattered on the ground. Some blood dragon guards relied on their powerful strength to directly lift the enemy up, and then brutally he fell hard to the ground with a dull sound. The enemy's muscles and bones were instantly broken and he died. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere in the hall, and screams came one after another. Under the fierce attack of Gavin and the blood dragon guard, the guards were quickly wiped out. Gavin didn't stop and continued to rush towards the back of the hall. The blood dragon guard kicked open the door at the back and rushed in, followed closely by Gavin. In the room, Gavin finally saw the target of his trip, the Black Shark Earl. Obviously, the screams outside just woke him up. At this time, he was only wearing pajamas, but he had already picked up a sword and took a defensive posture. Black Shark Earl looked at Gavin and the blood dragon guard who walked in, and asked doubtfully, "Gavin Bellerys?" Gavin said with a smile, "Exactly, you are the Pirate King Black Shark Earl." Hyshiel stared at the blood dragon guards next to Gavin and did not answer. Instead, he asked with doubts in his heart, "It seems that you did not accidentally end up on the island. You obviously came here on purpose. Who hired you? Benefactor? Or the Thorn family?" The corner of Gavin's mouth raised, and a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. "No one hired me. Thanks to you, I did end up here accidentally." Chapter 36 Conquering Shipwreck Bay. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Black Shark Earl laughed in anger. "Surprising? My people saw that only 2 of you escaped to the island. How many people do you have now? No wonder all the people I sent out disappeared." After saying that, he waved the sword in his hand and rushed towards Gavin. Gavin swiftly dodged sideways, and Black Shark Earl's sword chopped on the wooden pillar beside him, and sawdust flew. The blood dragon guards quickly surrounded and trapped Black Shark Earl in the middle. Black Shark Earl roared and waved his sword frantically, trying to break through the encirclement. Looking at the trapped Black Shark Earl, Gavin ordered lightly, "Knock him out, I want him alive." Upon hearing this, a blood dragon guard raised his strong arm without hesitation and struck the back of Black Shark Earl's neck with thunder. Black Shark Earl only felt a blackness in front of his eyes, and then lost consciousness, and his body collapsed to the ground softly. Gavin walked forward, took a look at the unconscious Black Shark Earl, and said, "Take him away, we will go to the front." The blood dragon guards acted quickly, carried Black Shark Earl, followed Gavin, and evacuated the room in an orderly manner. At this time, the pirate camp outside was in chaos. The patrolling team of pirates heard the screams coming from the direction of the hall, looked terrified, and hurried to the hall. At the door of the hall, Gavin's blood dragon guards left outside stood like a sculpture, exuding a chilling atmosphere. When the patrolling pirates hurriedly arrived with scimitars in hand, the blood dragon guards moved instantly. A pirate took the lead in waving a scimitar and rushed towards the blood dragon guard. The blood dragon guard dodged sideways and punched the pirate in the abdomen. The pirate bent down in pain. The blood dragon guard took his scimitar and swung it back, and blood gushed out of the pirate's neck. Seeing this, the other pirates roared and rushed forward. The blood dragon guards immediately went up to fight the pirates fiercely. The sound of metal collisions echoed in the night sky, and blood splashed, staining the ground red. The fierce fighting here attracted more pirates to come, holding torches and illuminating the bloody battlefield. The newly arrived pirates shouted chaotic slogans and joined the battle. However, the blood dragon guards were much stronger than they imagined. Despite the large number of pirates, the blood dragon guards still had the upper hand and repelled and killed wave after wave of pirates. At this time, Gavin came to the outside of the hall. At this time, there were no less than 100 pirates gathered here, and many pirates continued to gather here. Gavin used the flame blade without hesitation, and the long sword in his hand instantly ignited the magic flame, which was particularly eye-catching in the night sky. Gavin, holding the flaming sword, quickly rushed towards the pirates in front of him, and the blood dragon guards behind him followed closely. The flaming sword was incredibly powerful. With each swing, the pirates were cut in half, including their weapons. Gavin also slashed out hot waves of flames from time to time. The waves formed by the flames instantly ignited the clothes of more than a dozen pirates, who rolled and wailed in pain in the fire. Gavin led the Blood Dragon guards and his gang into an empty space. Wherever they went, blood splashed and flames shot up into the sky. They quickly killed in the direction of the port. When Gavin and his gang arrived at the port, some pirates were trying to board the ship. The Blood Dragon guards quickly defended the port to prevent the pirates from escaping. After a series of interceptions, most of the pirates failed to board the ship. Only a few pirates boarded a long ship in advance. Gavin took the bow handed over by the Blood Dragon guards beside him and aimed at the pirate long ship. A flaming arrow appeared out of thin air on the hard bow. Gavin let go and shot an arrow. There was a loud explosion. A huge gap was blown out on the side of the long ship. The seawater flowed into the ship crazily. The ship began to slowly tilt. The pirates on the ship jumped off the ship in a hurry to escape. The pirates saw Gavin's miraculous means, and their hearts were filled with fear of unknown forces. Many pirates' legs softened and they knelt down one after another, muttering in their mouths, as if praying for forgiveness from the gods. Gavin looked at the panicked pirates in front of him and scanned them. At this time, the Blood Dragon guard holding the Black Shark Earl came over and slapped him awake. Seeing the captured boss, the pirates were even more terrified. The Black Shark Earl who had just woken up had not reacted yet, and Gavin beheaded him with a sword in front of all the pirates. The head of the Black Shark Earl rolled to the ground, and blood splattered. Then Gavin held the bloody long sword and pointed it at all the pirates in front of him. Suddenly, the long sword in his hand burst into fierce flames again. The blazing flames illuminated the terrified faces of the pirates. Their eyes were full of awe and fear of unknown forces. This horrific scene made more pirates unable to bear the pressure and they all knelt down. Gavin said loudly, "As long as you kneel down to me and obey my orders from now on, I can spare your lives. Otherwise, anyone who does not kneel down will die today." The pirates were already scared by the miracles, and now they no longer had the slightest desire to resist. They all knelt down and bowed their heads, expressing their willingness to surrender. 2 days later, in the hall that had been cleaned up, Gavin was studying the island map he had just obtained and listening to the report. "Sir, the statistics are complete. There are currently 1,673 people on the island, 782 of whom were pirates, 346 shipbuilding slaves, and the rest are indigenous residents of the island and some pirates' families. There are currently 11 longships, 3 large sailing warships, 2 longships under construction and 5 longships waiting to be repaired, and a super-large warship Black Shark under construction." In the hall, Hassan reported to Gavin who was sitting on the throne. Hassan was the captain of the Golden Fleece. After landing on the island, Hassan was imprisoned in the dungeon by pirates. The dark days tortured him physically and mentally. Until one day, Gavin rescued him from the endless dark dungeon like a ray of dawn and appointed him as the chief steward of Shipwreck Bay. Hassan, who regained his freedom, walked out of the dungeon and learned about Gavin's deeds after landing on the island. He heard that Gavin killed the Black Shark Earl with almost miraculous means, defeated and conquered the pirates of Shipwreck Bay. Hassan had seen Gavin's magic with his own eyes when he was on the ship before. Gavin's power and mystery impressed him. He secretly vowed to submit to Gavin wholeheartedly and serve him to repay this life-saving grace and kindness. At this time, Gavin was studying the island map in his hand. Without looking up, he asked directly, "How is the material statistics?" "Sir, the food on the island is enough for everyone to use for a year. There are also a lot of daily necessities, and there are many large woods for shipbuilding. In addition, the gold and silver found in the treasure house of the Black Shark Earl totaled 230,000 gold dragons. In addition, there are some scattered jewelry, gems, pearls, dragon bones and some handicrafts." Hassan reported respectfully, "Please give me some recommendation votes. Thank you here, and thank you for the reward." Chapter 37 The Dragon Egg Lost Its Vitality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dragon bones? How many are there? Take me to see them immediately. Gavin, who heard about the existence of dragon bones, excitedly threw down the map in his hand, and pulled Hassan to take a look. Soon, in an underground treasure house, Gavin saw the dragon bones. This is a very well-preserved dragon bone, not the fragmented state that Gavin thought. Gavin simply estimated that the dragon's wingspan could reach 8 meters and its length was not less than 11 meters. It was obviously an adult dragon. For some reason, the dragon bones would end up in the treasure house of a pirate leader. Gavin put his hand on the head of the dragon bone and felt the magic contained in it. However, the result disappointed him a little. There was indeed magic in it, but it was not much for this huge dragon bone. It was estimated that absorbing all of it might bring him more than 10 points of energy. Gavin guessed that the amount of magic contained in the dragon bone was obviously affected by the size and strength of the dragon when it was alive. The best one was undoubtedly the pendant made of the Bellerys dragon bone in his hand. Other small dragon bones naturally had less magic, however, although it was a bit disappointing. This was undoubtedly the first time that Gavin obtained such a huge potential energy point, which was also a big gain. Then, Gavin asked Hassan next to him, "Have you asked where this dragon bone came from?" Hassan immediately replied, "When I found it, I asked the pirates who were guarding here before. I heard that it was found on this island." After hearing the origin of the dragon bone, Gavin was very surprised. He didn't expect that there was a dragon bone on this island, and it was a complete set. Doesn't it mean that a dragon once died here? Then, he immediately asked Hassan to call the guard who was questioned before, and Gavin asked him in detail. It turned out that after the Black Shark Earl occupied the Shipwreck Bay, the pirates explored the entire island. They found this dragon bone in a cave. Because the dragon bone was more valuable, they brought it back intact. After hearing this, Gavin immediately asked the pirate to be his guide and take him to sea. After a whole day of marching deep into the island, Gavin and his party finally reached the cave where the dragon bones were found. As soon as they stepped into the cave, a damp and slightly decayed smell came to their faces. The space inside the cave was extremely vast. Gavin carefully led everyone to explore in this dark environment, and their footsteps echoed in the empty cave, which was particularly clear. Gavin's eyes carefully scanned the surroundings, not missing any corner. Finally, he found a special place. In the narrow gap formed by two huge rocks, the material in the middle was completely different from the surrounding rocks. It was a dark red material with a slightly rough surface. It looked like a unique shape formed by high-temperature magma cooling and solidification. Gavin immediately picked up the tools and began to dig hard, using all his strength every time. As he dug, the gravel rolled down, and finally, a gray dragon egg appeared in front of everyone. However, this dragon egg was already dull and covered with tiny cracks on the surface. It was obviously a dragon egg that had lost its vitality, and even the magic inside the dragon egg had been lost. Looking at the dragon egg in his hand, Gavin was a little disappointed, but he still carefully put it into the bag and planned to take it back. After that, Gavin and his team searched the cave carefully for a long time, not letting go of every corner, but in the end there was no new discovery. In desperation, Gavin could only sigh and choose to lead the team back. At night in Shipwreck Bay, Gavin sat alone on the throne, and the dragon bone was placed next to the throne. His hand gently placed on the dragon bone, slowly absorbing the magic in it. Gavin frowned, and his mind was full of thoughts. Although he successfully ruled Shipwreck Bay with force and fear, and incorporated more than 10 pirate ships and more than 700 pirates, he knew that these pirates were fickle and only temporarily succumbed to his powerful force. Outside, the forces left by the Black Shark Earl are still not to be underestimated. More than 50 pirate ships and nearly 4,000 pirates are scattered on nearby islands, and they are still unaware of the change of ownership of Shipwreck Bay. The situation in the entire Stepstones is even more chaotic. The Dornishmen in the west, the three daughters in the east, and the temporarily defeated Thorn family, each force is far stronger than himself. Gavin thought about the Shipwreck Bay in his hand. Should he keep it or give it up decisively? Gavin sat there thinking for a long time. His mind was full of thoughts, and the situation in the Stepstones was in chaos. Here, it seems that as long as you have enough strength, anyone can be the king of the Stepstones. In this case, it is better to take it one step at a time. His eyes became firm, and he had a preliminary plan in his mind. First, the pirates under his rule should be reorganized, and those who are undisciplined should be eliminated. At the same time, training should be strengthened to improve their combat effectiveness and discipline. Then, try to control more islands to expand his sphere of influence. After all, his arrival at the Shipwreck Bay and the Stone Steps archipelago was an accident. If he failed in the end, the worst that could happen was that he would run away. After all, the Stone Steps archipelago was a large piece of land. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, it was worth a try. Maybe he could carve out a place of his own in this chaotic place. The next day, Gavin arrived at the large dock. As soon as he stepped in, the rich smell of wood and tung oil filled his nose. There are no free craftsmen here. All the workers are shipbuilding slaves purchased from Slavers Bay. They are focused and skillfully carry out the work in their hands. Gavin paid special attention to the flagship Black Shark that Black Shark Earl originally prepared for himself. At this time, it was almost completed. This is an extremely majestic wooden sailing ship, with a hull of 80 meters long and about 20 meters wide. It has 3 tall masts like towering pillars, standing on the deck. The main mast is more than 50 meters high, thick and straight, and can withstand huge wind force. The hull is large and strong, with smooth and graceful lines. At critical moments, paddles can be extended from both sides of the hull to increase speed through human power, achieving coordinated propulsion between manpower and wind power. 8 ballistas are neatly placed on the front and rear decks of the ship, like majestic guards, as if they are ready to spray angry flames at the enemy at any time, showing a powerful deterrent. Gavin called the slaves in charge of management and some highly skilled craftsmen slaves to communicate with them and learn more about the situation of the entire shipyard. Gavin looked at the slave steward in front of him seriously and said, "Tell me about your living environment, food and accommodation conditions here." Chapter 38, Establishing Authority. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The slave steward lowered his head quickly, his body trembling slightly, and answered respectfully, "Sir, the place we live in is dark, damp and crowded. We only eat some crude food to barely survive." As he said that, his eyes revealed a trace of helplessness and pleading. Gavin frowned slightly and said, "I will improve this situation for you. Now tell me, what kind of ships can you build?" That the slave steward quickly straightened up, folded his hands in front of him, and said respectfully, "Sir, we have rich experience. Small fishing boats, medium-sized cargo ships, and even large sailing ships like this giant ship. As long as there are enough materials, we can do our best to build them." Gavin nodded and continued to ask, "What about the storage of wood? How many ships can be made?" The slave steward looked embarrassed, bowed and saluted and said, "Sir, the current wood is sufficient, but I am afraid it is only enough to build another long ship." He gestured with his hands while speaking. Gavin's face darkened and he said, "Isn't there enough wood? Why can we only build one ship?" The slave manager was terrified and hurriedly explained, "Sir, there are not many giant woods for making keels. The other wood can only build some fishing boats at most." Gavin pondered for a moment and said, "I know. I will find a way to solve the problem of wood. You must build it carefully and finish this giant ship first." The slave manager felt relieved and knelt down and kowtowed, "Thank you, sir. We will do our best." Then, Gavin took out a blueprint of a 3-bow crossbow from his previous life. The blueprint was really sloppy and the lines were crooked. Gavin pointed to the blueprint and patiently and carefully explained it to several slave craftsmen who made crossbows. "Look here, and here." The slaves gathered around, frowning and listening carefully. One of the leaders who managed the craftsmen said, "Sir, there is no need to remake it, we should be able to modify it." Gavin's eyes lit up and he asked eagerly, "Modify it directly?" The head craftsman nodded affirmatively, "Sir, it can be modified, using the crossbow made before." Gavin immediately gave a decisive order, "Okay, start building and testing the power of the bed crossbow immediately." His expression was serious and his eyes were majestic. The chief craftsman quickly responded, "Yes, sir." Gavin emphasized again, "Remember, once the test is successful, all the crossbows must be replaced." The chief craftsman bowed respectfully and saluted, "I understand, sir, please rest assured." At this time, Gavin looked around the slave stewards and craftsmen, and said solemnly, "As long as you serve me seriously for 3 years, I will give you freedom, and I will also give you some rewards during these 3 years." The slave stewards and craftsmen heard the light of hope in their eyes, and they knelt down and kowtowed, shouting in unison, "Thank you, sir. We will do our best." Afterwards, Gavin decided to thoroughly reorganize this group of chaotic pirates. He knew that if he wanted to dominate this dangerous sea, he must have a disciplined, well-trained and loyal team. In the morning, Gavin ordered Hassan to bring the fierce blood dragon guards to gather the pirates scattered in every corner of the camp. Many pirates gathered in an open space lazily and dragging their feet. They whispered to each other, their faces full of curiosity and uneasiness about this call. Gavin stood on a high place, his eyes like a hawk sweeping over this mob. He thought to himself, these guys have always been undisciplined, and they must be made clear of the importance of rules by iron-fisted means. Gavin said loudly, "From today on, I will set the first rule for you. When you gather, no one is allowed to speak without my order, and no one is allowed to whisper. Those who violate the rules will die." The pirates were in an uproar when they heard it. Gavin's face sank and he shouted angrily, "Who is making noise? Stand up." The crowd was silent in an instant. Gavin did not do anything else next, but just let the pirates stand where they were, while he sat on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. Finally, several dissatisfied pirates couldn't help but whisper and complain to each other in private. Gavin, who had been listening carefully, immediately noticed it and ordered the blood dragon guards to pull them out in public without hesitation. He stared at the pirates with cold eyes and said coldly, "I have given you a chance, but you don't know how to cherish it." Before he finished speaking, the blood dragon guard raised his sword and fell. The pirates who were whispering to each other were instantly beheaded, and blood splashed on the faces of other pirates. They looked at Gavin in horror, their hearts full of fear, and they dared not disobey him anymore. In this way, the pirates stood until sunset, and no pirate dared to say a word during this period. Watching the sky getting dark, the blood dragon guard brought a heavy box. After opening it, it was full of shining golden dragons. Gavin climbed up to the height again and said loudly, "Your performance today is not bad. I am not a stingy person. This is a reward for your obedience." After that, he ordered Hassan to distribute them one by one. The next day, Gavin gathered the pirates here in the same way. Then, Gavin began to ask the pirates about their past experiences and skills one by one. He was focused and made careful records, and arranged their groups accordingly. Gavin divided the pirates who were familiar with sailing routes and wind directions and good at repairing ship equipment into a separate group, and then brought everyone together for training. In the following days, Gavin did not slack off at all. He personally supervised the training of the pirates every day. In the process, he slowly discovered that there were various small groups among these people, and every night, Gavin talked with many sailors and captains who had been kidnapped before. He knew that just reorganizing pirates was not enough. Those sailors and captains who had been kidnapped were also a force that cannot be ignored. At this time, Gavin sat opposite an experienced old captain. He said in a sincere tone, "I am deeply sorry that you were forced to come here. But now that the situation has been determined, I sincerely hope to get your assistance. I am by no means a cruel and ruthless person like Black Shark Earl. As long as you are willing to serve me, I guarantee that you and your crew will receive due respect and preferential treatment." The old captain's eyes were complicated. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "Sir, although I have been coerced here, I understand the current situation. But, how can I trust you?" Gavin smiled slightly and said, "Captain, time will prove everything. As long as you sincerely help me, your future glory and wealth will be indispensable." Chapter 39 Rebellion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old captain thought for a long time, and finally nodded and said, "Okay, sir, I am willing to give it a try." In this way, Gavin gradually brought these sailors and captains under his control through a combination of kindness and power. Gavin also called Hassan, and summoned some prestigious people among the island's indigenous people, promising that as long as they obeyed his rule, they would not enslave each other like the Black Shark Earl. Some of them had already seen Gavin's miraculous methods before, and all the indigenous people surrendered to him. Later, he ordered the indigenous people to carry out large-scale reclamation of the island, clearing trees and reclaiming the land inside the island. In this way, Gavin began the all-round transformation and rectification of Shipwreck Bay. After reorganizing the pirates during this period, Gavin fully demonstrated his iron fist. He screened the team with extremely strict standards and ruthlessly eliminated all unqualified pirates. Those thorny ones with perverse personalities and disobedience to discipline were also collected by him in a tough way and became the feared Blood Dragon Guards. At night, the sea breeze howled by, and several pirate captains gathered together in a dilapidated wooden house. A bearded and stout pirate captain sat down on the chair and said angrily, "This Gavin is so cruel. When we followed the boss, we lived so carefree. How different is it now that we are subject to him everywhere?" "Control." A one-eyed pirate next to him echoed, "That's right. We can't survive this day, we have to find a way." Another tall and thin pirate continued, "Why don't we grab the ship and escape? Get out of this hellish place." At this time, a pirate with a scar on his face frowned and said, "That guy Gavin connected all the ships with ropes and placed them far away from the port. If we want to rob him, we must first swim a distance. Moreover, the port is heavily defended, and the few undead monsters under Gavin patrolling the port day and night are simply a headache." The pirate who was the first to suggest escaping sneered, "Humph, I have observed that there are only 8 monsters at the port and 20 of the sailors from before. If we gather more people, we can always kill them with random swords." The port. There are still 2 merchant ships parked. Let's grab the merchant ship first, and then sail towards the ship in the distance. In this way, we can drive away the 3 most valuable sailing warships. With the speed of the sailing warships, they can't catch up. "Come on us." But when everyone heard this, their eyes lit up and they began to discuss the details. "Then we have to arrange our manpower and operate at night." "That's right, you have to move quickly so that no one can notice. Weapons also need to be ready, just in case." While they were plotting, no one noticed the pirate in the corner who followed the captain. His eyes flashed slightly and his expression was uncertain. He listened carefully to their plans, thinking secretly in his mind. The next day, while Gavin was discussing with the slave steward, Hassan suddenly hurried in with a nervous-looking pirate. The pirate quickly knelt down and said, "Sir, I have something important to report." Gavin frowned slightly and said, "Speak." The pirate gasped and said, "Several former captains are plotting to escape. They plan to rob the ship after dark tomorrow night." Gavin's eyes narrowed and he asked, "Why are you willing to report? Why didn't you participate?" The pirate hurriedly explained, "Sir, I was captured here by them and forced to become a pirate. I never thought about living this kind of life." Gavin nodded and said, "Very good, I will repay your loyalty. You go back there first, pretend that nothing happened, keep an eye on them, and if you have any news, go directly to Hassan. When everything is over, I will be promoted to captain." After hearing this, the other party burst into tears of gratitude. "Thank you, sir. I will definitely take care of it." The next night, a group of pirates quietly gathered together. "Are you all ready?" the arrogant captain asked in a low voice. "That's almost it. We have more than 200 brothers and can sail away 3 sail warships." The one-eyed captain replied. "Move quickly and don't make any mistakes." This group of pirates headed towards the port in a chaotic manner, and soon they saw that there were only 8 blood dragon guards patrolling the port, and no one else. "Listen to my command and come together." Following the command, the pirates swarmed out and rushed toward the guards. "Rush over, don't hesitate." For a moment, shouts of killing broke the tranquility of the port. However, the previously extremely powerful Blood Dragon Guard collapsed at the drop of a hat. A pirate pierced the Blood Dragon Guard's heart with his sword, and found that the opponent was not the undead monster he imagined, and he fell to the ground. After taking care of the pirates of the Blood Dragon Guard, they quickly ran to the port where the ship was parked. When they arrived at the port, they found that there was only 1 merchant ship left at the port. "Damn, what's going on?" "No matter, let's get on the boat first." In desperation, they hurriedly boarded the merchant ship and quickly sailed away from the port. At this time, the huge noise of shouting for death had attracted the attention of the entire camp. The lights were brightly lit for a while, and countless figures gathered towards the port. The pirates on the ship were busy frantically, hurriedly untying the cables and raising the sails. Just before the line of fire was about to reach the port, the merchant ship slowly left the shore. However, as soon as the ship left the shore, more than a dozen blood dragon guards suddenly rushed out of the cabin, and they launched a ruthless killing of the pirates on the ship, and the ship was in chaos in an instant. A blood dragon guard raised his sword and cut off the strange pole with one sword. Gavin took the longbow handed over by the blood dragon guard, pulled the string and put the arrow on it, and a flaming arrow whizzed out, shooting a big hole in the stern of the merchant ship that had just left the port less than 100 meters away. The merchant ship began to take in a lot of water and gradually tilted down. The pirates had no choice but to jump into the water and swim hard towards some ships parked in the distance, but suddenly, many figures appeared on those ships, and they shot the pirates who fell into the water with bows and arrows. The remaining pirates had no choice but to turn around and swim towards the port. After reaching the port, they were ruthlessly strangled by the blood dragon guards who were waiting for them. So far, a rebellion has been completely quelled. A month later, after screening and a rebellion, the original large number of pirates was reduced to less than 400. Gavin carefully selected some strong and obedient people from the kidnapped sailors and local aborigines, and finally formed a team of more than 600 soldiers. That day, Gavin was listening to Hassan's report to him in the hall. Suddenly, a subordinate hurried in to report, 2 pirate ships have crossed the channel and entered the Shipwreck Bay, and are preparing to dock. Chapter 40 Pirates outside Shipwreck Bay. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing the news, Gavin immediately set off and rushed over with the Blood Dragon Guard. During this period of time, Gavin strictly controlled the entry and exit of Shipwreck Bay in order to prevent the news of the change of owners in Shipwreck Bay from spreading, in order to achieve the purpose of deception, hoping that some of the original Black Shark Earl's men outside would not sink. Angry, I came to Shipwreck Bay so that Gavin could catch a turtle in a jar. As soon as the 2 ships docked, they were quickly controlled by Gavin's men. All crew members were disarmed, tied up, and then taken to the dungeon. The 2 captains were even tied up like rice dumplings and brought to Gavin in disgrace. Facing Gavin's interrogation, the 2 captains felt turbulent in their hearts. They are fully aware of the situation at this moment, and they also know that resisting or concealing will not end well. The captain on the left flashed his eyes, quickly weighing the pros and cons in his mind. He thought that he still had his wife, children at home waiting for him to return. If he lost his life due to a moment of stubbornness at this moment, what would the family do? What's more, now that Shipwreck Cove has changed hands, and the life or death of the Black Shark Earl is uncertain, the situation is over, and there is no point in continuing to resist. So, he took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth. The captain on the right was also filled with fear and helplessness. He thought of the days when he was wandering on the sea and experienced countless storms and dangers, but he had never felt so desperate as now. He understood that the Gavin in front of him was by no means a good person. His extraordinary methods could be seen from his ability to control Shipwreck Bay so quickly and decisively. If you insist on concealing it, I am afraid that not only your own life will be in danger, but the brothers under you will also suffer. In these brief but long seconds, the 2 captains experienced a fierce inner struggle. Eventually, fear, helplessness, and the desire to survive took over. They looked at each other and saw the same decision in each other's eyes. The captain on the left lowered his head first and said in a slightly trembling voice, "Sir, we dare not hide anything, and we will truthfully inform the outside world of the situation." The captain on the right then echoed, "Yes, sir, just please spare our lives." Then, as if they had opened up a chat box, they told everything they knew without daring to hold anything back. Through the confessions of the 2 captains, Gavin learned about the situation in the outside world. In the previous conflict with the Dornish people, the strength of both sides was greatly damaged. The Dornish people had completely reduced their defenses, and there was not much fleet left. Most of the pirates currently out there still abide by the previous orders of Black Shark Earl and focus on recuperating and preparing for the Thorn family's counterattack. However, since no new orders were issued for a long time, 2 ships were sent to check. They now control Bloodstone Island and 2 unnamed islands. However, Grey Hinge Island is still under the control of the Thorn family and has not been able to capture it. However, Grey Hinge Island has lost its fleet and has lost its way to sea. Ability. At present, the entire trade route of the Stepstone Islands has been completely controlled. Gavin touched his chin with his hand, lost in thought. The Dornish people's shrinking defense does not mean that they have given up resistance and may counterattack at any time. The Thorn family has a firm control over the Grey Hinge Island and will not give it up easily. Once the opponent's fleet has finished resting in Lys, it will inevitably return to the Stepstone Islands, and the long-term interruption of the trade routes will also force the Third Daughter Kingdom to take action. Gavin was already planning his next move in his mind. He wants to take advantage of the temporary weakness of all parties to completely integrate the pirates outside, gradually expand his influence, gain a foothold in this ever-changing sea area, and establish his own hegemony. Through this period of reorganization, Gavin has initially stabilized his rule in Shipwreck Bay, but due to the short time and external threats, his rule is still unstable. As long as they can collect and defeat the scattered pirates in the next operation, they can completely replace the Black Shark Earl, stabilize his rule and control most areas of the Stepstone Islands. Determined, Gavin decided to take the initiative and take advantage of the unequal information to raid the pirate forces outside Shipwreck Bay. On an unnamed island, a bonfire was burning, reflecting the wild and unruly faces of the pirates. Hook Todd and several of his pirate captains had a carnival, and the air was filled with strong alcohol and vulgar laughter. Each of them had a prostitute from Lys in their arms, and they laughed and behaved wildly. The sound of clinking wine glasses and noisy yelling were intertwined, making the whole scene chaotic and lively. Some people were so drunk that they were staggering around. Some people were arguing with their companions and their faces were red. Suddenly, a subordinate hurried over to report, "Boss, the 2 longships sent earlier have returned." At the same time, the 2 sail warships and 5 longships of the boss are following behind, all under the flag of the boss. After hearing this, Ironhook Todd's expression changed. He pushed the prostitute in his arms away, and shouted loudly, "Stop fucking drinking." The noisy scene fell silent instantly, and the pirates looked at each other in shock. Ironhook Todd stood up, straightened his clothes, and led his men towards the seaside to greet him. There are dozens of islands in the entire Stepped Islands, and only 8 have fresh water. 4 of the 5 islands close to the trade routes are controlled by the Black Shark Earl. This unnamed island is one of the 5 islands with fresh water on the trade routes. As one of the most trusted lieutenants of the Black Shark Earl, Ironhook Todd led 10 longships and 800 pirates. Responsible for stationing here, the wooden dock was simple and small. 8 longboats were parked at the moment, which was already crowded. After another sailing warship docked, there was almost no extra space. In the distance, Ironhook Todd stood on the dock and waited anxiously. The sailing warship slowly approached the port, and the crew quickly threw out the heavy rope. The sailors on the shore caught it and tied it tightly to the huge wooden pile. The pedal was lowered from the side of the ship, making a dull sound, intertwined with the sound of waves hitting the dock. Gavin led the Blood Dragon guards down from the ship slowly. Ironhook Todd was puzzled when he saw the newcomer. He ran to Gavin and asked with a smile, "This brother looks unfamiliar. Is he the new boss?" Gavin responded, "No, I'm not. As for the boss you mentioned, you can see for yourself." After that, the Blood Dragon guard held a small wooden box and handed it to Ironhook Todd. Ironhook Todd took the wooden box with doubts. When he slowly opened the wooden box, a pungent smell of lime hit his face. The head of the Black Shark Earl was lying quietly in the box. Its face was as pale as paper, and its skin was a little mottled due to slight decay. The traces of lime were unevenly distributed on the head, making it look even more hideous and terrifying.